Hey, this is Bill Gagne in the Royal City Hoops podcast. In this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a guest. My friend Calvin Celestine from the South Shore Ave podcast is going to be on with us. We have hit the quarter point or a little bit more in the season, and we are going to talk about interesting things to us and probably interesting things to you. So, as always, at the end of this, if you enjoy this podcast, please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe, which would be really appreciated. And check out Calvin's podcast, which you can get on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else. And he's even just started a YouTube channel. Enough with the preamble. Let's get started with the interview. So we are at the quarter point right now. Have you been watching a lot of games, or are you just watching here and there, and then you're whatever you're listening to, you're reading, you're using to figure things out, or are you?
A little bit of both. I am watching. I am also watching highlights. Fantasy team is keeping me updated and stuff.
those like 9-minute games on NBA TV are kind of like my the substitute for my league
your
pass.
go-tos right now.
Well, I mean,
YouTube highlights.
whatever I'm watching, I'll watch like one game every 2 nights, and it's mostly the Raptors. So I'm taking in like other teams that way.
Yeah, because I have IPTV. Because I have IPTV, it's I find myself watching. This is probably I've watched some Raptor games, but I've been watching mostly like other games for the most part.
I miss that about League Pass, being able to pick.
Yeah, because I get the League Pass too. It comes with it too. So
yeah, so you get to pick non-TV games of teams you want to watch. Like if you want to watch Anthony Edwards or you want to watch James Wiseman, I'm big on watching certain players. So then I'll want to see that team. Like I haven't really watched a lot of Utah. So why don't we start here? Who, looking at the standings, right? Who to you are the biggest surprises or disappointments going in? I try to pick one from either conference, one or two.
Disappointments. It's a good question. I would say, like it's funny in terms of players or just teams or just or
either one.
Matter
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the standings, and if you look at either the East or the West, right? I mean, if you look at the East, you are 3 games out of a playoff spot, or in the West, actually. The Pelicans are second to last, and they are 3 games out of a playoff spot. So everybody's record is just so close that it's really, even if you can say you think the Utah Jazz are a huge surprise with the best record in the league, they're only a few games up, so it's hard to pick one that's.
It's funny because on the last podcast I just put out, the team I would say would be Denver, to me, because I know some of it is injuries, I know some of it is COVID.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I love Jamal Murray, but I thought he would have been like that residual effect of the bubble. I thought that would have carried over. And my guest that was on, he was saying that he could just be like coasting and just like, just being patient and taking his time with like getting into the season kind of thing, because they just finished a couple months ago. And I mean, that could be it. Because the stats, we look at the stats isn't bad, but I just felt like Donovan Mitchell took that and went a level, like the way he's playing this year, he went a level. And I don't think Jamal Murray, he hasn't done that yet. He looks kind of the same like he did last year pre-bubble. You know what I mean?
And they lost some guys. Like they lost Jeremy Grant, who would have been a piece. But if you look at the standings, they're 4th in the West at 11-8. I mean, a few weeks ago they were, bottom 3 in the West, and now you're going, maybe they're not as bad. But you're right, Jamal Murray hasn't had that sort of, he was having 50-point games in the bubble, and you're like, oh man, this guy could be a problem.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like he can't get to that point later in the season, and there's no way, shape, or form I'm still not a fan of him. I'm a huge fan of him, but I just feel like there was like he reached a level last year, and I thought it would have stayed there, and so far he hasn't gone there yet. I know it's early in the season, you know what I mean? And
it's short turnaround. You made the point, right?
It's a short turnaround. They just got Michael Porter Jr. back, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you're just gonna have to let them gel. But I expect them to be better. I think they will be better
Mhm.
later on the season. But for so far, I would say if it's a team I would look at, I would say it's them in the West for sure.
I mean, I would stay there, but this team doesn't have, if Denver's 11-8, the Pelicans are 7-11. And they might be,
Mhm.
to me, the one I thought, oh, maybe they're ready to take that next, step. But still, they're only, you know, they are 3.5 games back of Denver. And
Yeah.
and everybody is graped up. I just don't, having seen a few of the Pelicans games, their lineup doesn't seem to gel that well yet. And then now you're hearing the Lonzo Ball trade talk. So what do you do with that? Is
Mhm.
he going to move on? And is the kid from Nikhil Alexander Walker? He's from Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Is he? They're talking about giving him those minutes so
Or
that
it's
they're going to
Toronto.
move out. Yeah,
That's not a bad option because number it's a win for Canadians, and
yeah.
secondly, I mean, Nikhil is good, man. Like
Well,
he's
that's
a
the
solid
thing,
player. Like when Ball and those guys were hurt, like he stepped right in.
and
He
that's
was
what
pretty seamless.
they're talking about, moving on from Lonzo to give him the
Yeah,
minutes. And I'm
I
like,
would.
hey,
I would
if you're not
because
going to be in it,
so go ahead.
yeah, if you're not going to be in it, give the kid the minutes.
And not just that. On top of that, I think Lonzo. I mean, they didn't give him the extension, so he's a
No,
restricted free agent next year. So money wise, like you know what, if Nikhil can contribute to a lot of the same things that Lonzo is and be more efficient, and then you got at least another 2 years or whatever before you could even look at an extension for him. Why not?
yeah,
I
because
would do it. I would do it if I was them.
you're thinking about your salary cap. Then I was talking in a couple episodes ago, like, does this season even matter depending on who you are? Like, if you're the Pelicans, we might not even finish the season. So you may as well play your young guys, figure out what you have, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to try to be in the play-in games.
Hmm.
You know, for certain teams, like if you're the Lakers or the Clippers or, Milwaukee this season, or even now you're looking at the Nets, like this season matters because you're on the clock, right? You got to close that window. But if you're one of these teams who are like, you're fighting for the play-in, doesn't really matter that much to be
Hmm.
that competitive.
And for a team like New Orleans too, like their success is more built for the future. It's not really for right this moment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like if they get to like if they can move on from Alonzo and like I said and play Nikhil, yeah, why not? Like run it and see what happens. Because again, like you still have a nucleus that you can build upon. Like I mean, I know they paid Steven Adams to give him an extension for some reason. I don't know why. They also and I know they're paying Bledsoe money, but I think his contract might be coming up soon. So
He's in the mix to get traded. You have a floor of the salary cap of what you have to spend.
yeah,
I don't really mind you giving Steven Adams that money because he kind of impacts winning. Whereas you're paying JJ 13 million, you're paying Bledsoe, I think it's 16 or 17. Lonzo's coming up, probably wanting a bigger deal. What's your timeline and where do you want to allocate your salary cap money? You know,
yeah, and
Especially if you're
and
not in the mix for winning a chip.
and I think too with obviously because they just extended Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
I think they gave him whatever his max was, like 150 something or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was. So him and Zion are the guys. So you know, people are gonna want to play with Zion at some point. Like that's gonna happen. Like
I've
there's
really
gonna
liked,
be
yeah, I've really liked Ingram's development too. I've seen a few of their
yeah,
games. He's been
yeah.
impressive.
Oh, he's been really impressive. He's been really impressive. It's funny because I know you're asking me about the East and the West. I think and it's not really their fault, but the other team is Miami because Miami right now they're like the fourth worst team in the league record wise right now.
They're I'm looking at it right now as we're talking. So they're 7-12, as are
Right,
the Raptors, right?
right.
But
So they won last night. Yeah.
yeah, and they are 6.5 games out of first. They are 1.5 games out of eighth. So it's everybody's really, as disappointing as Miami can be, they're not that far out of it. If you're going to talk about in the East disappointments, I mean, man, there's so many of them because it's the East. But I mean, I would say the Raptors right now to me are a disappointment, even though I think they'll get it together. I would say my surprise has been the Cavs, or I mean, I'll name you three, and they're all right next to each other, and they all have 9 wins. Or Cleveland, Charlotte, and the Knicks. I don't think I would have ever put those 3 teams
Any of
at
those 3.
7, 8, and 9.
Yeah. And it's early, so I expect one of those 3, if not 2 of those 3, to probably fall back a little bit. Like this, that's just the reality of it. But it's funny because I say Miami, and again, it's not their fault. Injuries and
Jimmy
COVID
hasn't
has
played
basically
much.
ravaged this whole team. Yeah, I think Jimmy Butler only came back last night.
Yeah.
This was, and he's only played like 7 games the entire year. So,
Tyler Hero's
it's,
missed 6 games.
yeah, like there's so like they're gonna come back. Like I expect them to make that like run. Like they'll be back in the playoff chase. And really and truly, even if they get one of those lower seeds, you're not gonna, if you're a higher seed, you're not gonna want to play them round 1.
No.
Because
Well,
the dirty secret with Miami, I feel, is like they made the NBA Finals. It was well deserved. It was worth it. But I always felt like if this was if it wasn't for COVID, would they have still made the finals? Like would Hero and Duncan Robinson been hitting those shots on the road? I don't know if they would have. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so even when they beat Milwaukee, it was like, yeah, they matched up really well in Milwaukee. The bubble really kind of exposed that. But going to a game 6 or a game 7 in Milwaukee, would those guys hit those same shots? We will never know.
Yep.
But I think that has a big effect.
Well, they were talking about the impact of no fans, right? Well, there's 2 points I'll bring up. They talk about how Miami was probably the one team built for the bubble, right? Just us against the world, insulated from everything. Let's do this. And Jimmy Butler's great in that vein. But now we're seeing sort of the myth of home court advantage exists mainly, I think they said, with regards to the refs. You're seeing teams come in beating you on your home court because it's the playing field is a little more even because you're not necessarily getting those hometown calls because there's no fans subconsciously intimidating the refs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to say on the other side, I'm surprised Philly is first in the East, but at the same time, they're a good team and they're only 1.5 games up on Brooklyn. And Brooklyn just got James Harden.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally surprised with Philly, and I think the large part of it is because is Embiid really and truly, because Embiid to me is an MVP type of player any year that he's playing, but I think this is the first time he's kind of realized it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of factors that kind of go into it, but I mean the fact that he's playing at an MVP clip right now, like a legitimate MVP clip, he hasn't missed any games really. You know what I mean? Maybe might have missed maybe like a couple, but no extended injury period where he's been out. I'm not surprised because I think the good thing that happened to him, I guess, this year post bubble is that they moved on from Brett Brown. They got Doc Rivers there now, and then Daryl Morey, he really went to he really showed okay, you're gonna be the guy.
Yeah,
I know there was a thing with you and Ben Simmons, but we're picking you. You're gonna be the guy, and I think that's part of the reason why he played so well. It's kind of his team now, really and truly, because they were shopping Simmons for a minute, and
who knows what happens with Bradley Beal in the mix if he doesn't get shopped again.
Right, right. So because he's his name was the one that was being bantied about in terms of being traded. Yeah, it could possibly happen again. Daryl Morey is a guy that he's not afraid to move people if he has to move people. He's like a messiah. He doesn't care. He'll sit at your dinner table, eat dinner with you, and then trade you by the time he walks out the door. He doesn't care. You know what I mean? So So that's what I mean. It's so I think because they put it in Embiid's hands, and then he has motivators too. People were writing him off he was the 3rd or 4th best center in the league, which to me I thought is insane. And and then people forget too. They didn't have a great season, but the year before they were 4 bounces away from possibly making the finals. So you go from that to having the season that they had. It's a motivating factor.
Well, and you saw a couple of changes. you mentioned Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey, and the two changes lineup wise that happened was Daryl Morey put more shooting on the team, right? He put Seth Curry on the team. There's talk that they might be in the hunt for JJ Redick right now. That Redick's like the Pelicans, and
Come
then
back to Philly.
Doc Rivers coming in. Tobias Harris had his best years playing for Doc.
Yeah, that's true.
They're moving him to the 4 a little bit more. I mean, they're playing him and Simmons as their forwards. Shake Milton's played well for them. So they've definitely tweaked some things because of those changes upstairs that have affected the production on the floor. And if you look back at the data from when Simmons and Embiid were playing with more shooting, they were deadly. Their point differential was massive. So I guess if you look at the numbers, it's not that surprising.
Yeah, and then they got that rookie too, Tyrese Maxey, which I really like from Kentucky.
Yeah,
like they didn't want to involve him in any trade, so there's a value for him too.
For sure, I've only seen highlights of their team. I haven't got a chance to watch like a full game of them. So, what was on your list to talk about?
Well, I know you were saying before you want to do kind of like buyers and sellers, that kind of thing before, which I know you kind of moved on from a little bit, which is fine.
We could do it. I mean, it doesn't really.
No, it's fine. I mean, basically whatever you want to talk about, man. It's your show.
All right, I have a topic that really bugs me, and I don't get a chance to talk about with anybody, and I want to talk to you about it. Where are you with the Atlanta Hawks? Are you a buyer or I want to say Atlanta Hawks, and my thing is like, it's not just the Hawks, it's a Trae Young discussion too. So let's do it. Are you buying or selling the Atlanta Hawks?
Oh man. It's funny you say that because I had them as a team to talk about. And I have them. I'm a seller. I'm a seller.
Now we have to agree because I'm selling. I'm selling all of it. I'm like, you can have it all.
What is your reason? What's your reason?
Well, I feel like Trae Young is empty calories.
Oh my God! Thank you. You're talking my language. I was just talking to my nephew about this because I'm at his place right now, and we were just talking about Trae Young, and I feel the same thing that you're talking about. I just feel like he's tracing Steph's career. And he's good. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a good player. He's a very good player. But it's just something about, I'm just not buying it, man. I'm just not buying it. Like honestly, it's one of those things. If it was a stock, sell it. If I gotta pay more for it later, I'll pay more for it later. It's fine.
I'll own that one.
Yeah.
John Collins too doesn't really turn the needle for me. Maybe it's him playing there, or maybe the fact that he's not willing to say, look, in the modern day NBA, I'm a 5 and that's where I'm going to be most effective. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they have so many young players. Like, who's your wings? Like, is it Kevin Huerter? Is it Cam Reddish? Is it DeAndre Hunter?
Yeah.
Who are you buying into? Because you need to bring in some vets. You just brought in Bogdanovich, who broke his knee. And defensively, aside from Clint Capella as a rim protector, there's not a lot there. Like Trae Young in his first 2 years. So there's 520 players in the NBA. Trae Young's first year, he ranked 520th in defensive rating.
He's terrible. He's terrible defensively.
And the next year he was like 513. So great. He can go out and get you 37. But are you is he your cornerstone to put you into the finals? I'm not buying it.
Yeah, and I feel like with him too, it's like I said again, he's a good player. Like he's like the stats he's putting up, he's efficient. Because I remember I was ripping him last year, and then I looked at like his efficiency, his stats, his field goal percentage. I'm like, oh shit, he's actually pretty efficient. But but there's just something about watching them. It's just a vibe, man. There's just something about watching him play. I'm just like the thing with Steph Curry that makes it amazing is that the guy has the whole culture is built around almost like his personality. You know what I mean? And they're like, he's the type of guy where, and you've seen it throughout history, like especially this run that they've been on, where the third best scorer, like a Klay Thompson, can get 60 points on 11 dribbles, and he's going crazy. Like he's like it's like his cousin Like he's watching it from the stands and he's celebrating like it's his cousin playing and he's so happy that his cousin's making it. Whereas if that happened at Atlanta, I don't feel like Trae Young would be happy about that. Like I feel like he would be like, I should be the one getting 60 points. Why is DeAndre Hutton getting 60 points? I'm not feeling this. You know what I mean? Like I just get that vibe from him, and I'm like, and I just don't see that. Like Steph is so unique. I don't think you can. Like I said, I think he's blue. They're like Atlanta Hawks and Tim to an extent himself as well. They're tracing the arc and the blueprint of his career. But I don't think because of he's an original, and I think that's such a unique situation. I don't think you could just go and do that and expect the same results.
I don't think you can ever recreate what Steph Curry does as a player. Like as a shooter, we've never seen somebody that prolific off the dribble, and as a guy, and as a catch and shoot guy, and as a guy you run off screens. And if you were to sit there and the metric they use of how many kilometers or miles a guy runs in a game, he's running like Reggie Miller. So how are you gonna hand off, cut to the corner, hand off again, swing to the other side, around a curl? Like Trae Young doesn't do that. So I think it was a mythic sort of that the owner brought about from the Hawks when they drafted him. That's never really gone away. That I think is doing him a disservice, but also is kind of undermining the fact that people are thinking, oh, you can find another Steph Curry. No, you can't. You can't.
He's an original. That's the problem.
Yeah. Who are you going to find that's going to duplicate that? Like nobody.
And I think part of it too is they're figuring, he can closely mimic Steph Curry. Maybe being in Atlanta, where you can get some of those fans, because it's not Atlanta's never been a place that gets like they don't get good attendance. Even when Dominique Wilkins was there. Yeah. Like it's just historically they've never been great at getting fans.
It's a great city for road teams.
Right. No, it's amazing for road teams. You ever see those strip clubs? Woo.
Never been to Atlanta.
but I'm just saying though, like it's one of those things where I think they're just trying to get the next step, and hopefully the crowd will follow. And I don't think you got to be careful of that stuff, because I think like Steph is an original, as we've seen, and it's kind of one of those things, same thing where it's like Michael Jordan for years was like there was so many carbon copies and they never equated to Jordan, right? So I think Steph is kind of in that same vein. It's like don't be careful of what you wish for, kind of thing.
You can't like all those all-timers. Like, are you going to be able to clone like, oh, we need a Tim Duncan? You're not getting one of those. We need a Shaq. You're not getting one of those.
Right.
We need a LeBron. Like they aren't out there. I did my last podcast. I talked about how every team is kind of one player away from something. Right. The unfortunate thing is like almost most of those teams, LeBron is that one player. So right. It's like if you're like Dallas, you have that player. You have Luka. If you're Memphis, you have Ja, who I'm a big fan of. And I think what you're looking at, let's use Ja as a comparison to Trae, is when I watch Ja Morant play, what he does impacts winning. You see that they are better when he's out there. When Trae's out there, does it matter who he's out with? Like, do you look at him and go, oh, you're impacting winning? No, I think he's good, like you said, but he's impacting the stat sheet. That's what he's impacting. It's nothing else to me.
I believe that too, and it's funny because like with John Collins, again, like you didn't sign that guy back. He averaged 21 and 10 last year. How do you not sign him back? You're not going to give him like a max, like in this day and age when you're averaging 21 and 10 as a big. I'm sorry, that's pretty much max money in terms of what they pay guys now.
I'll tell you. I was doing some homework for this. I saw a Bleacher Report for 2018. Was it 2018 or 2019?
Yeah.
I think it was 2019. They rated, they did the top 5 worst defensive players at their position. Trae Young was number 1 for point guards. John Collins was number 1 for power forwards. I was like,
I believe it.
That's so either they know something that we don't know about him, or they are not they are the new LA Clippers.
Yeah, or they feel like in some way, shape, or form, and you're already hearing rumors of bickering between the two of them already. So maybe they're figuring, okay, we're casting our lot and making Trae the franchise. we got to maybe get somebody that's compatible with him, I guess. But like
Yeah.
John Collins is gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid somewhere.
Somebody's gonna pay.
No ifs, ands, or buts about
There's
it.
this team called the Knicks. I don't know if you've heard of them. They collect power forwards, so
They'll do it.
they might be interested. Okay, I got another one here. Are the Timber? So I just mentioned the Clippers, and for the longest time, the Clippers were like the worst franchise in the NBA for decades, and they seem to in the last decade or so turned it around. Are the Timberwolves the new LA Clippers?
I would say, I want to say 100% yes, but I'm not sure if that's the right number. So I'll say 5,000% yes. They're absolutely they're just a trash organization, man. I'm sorry, because really and truly, like, I mean, Kevin Garnett was their biggest success.
Yep.
You know, like the last time they were like a legit like contending team where they want to win was when that one year where they had Cassell and Sprewell, playing with them and stuff. But that was like the game changer for them. And then, that blew up in their face. Really, since then, they've had one playoff season since. Hold on a second. You might have to edit this. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys, just recording. Sorry. Yeah. So so like in the last 15, 16 years, they've had one playoff appearance. The guys that you drafted, like Karl Anthony Towns, is going through hell this year. I don't know, like off the court and stuff.
Yeah.
What's happening with him? It's unfortunate, because then I think there was not a rumor, but I think he came out this weekend and said that this offseason he got hit by a drunk driver and he was hospitalized.
I saw that. So, I didn't know it was this summer. I thought it was recently. But
yeah, I think it was this. It might have been this summer. So I don't know what's happening with him this year. But
he lost both parents to COVID. No, and multiple.
He lost his mother.
He lost his mother. But multiple COVID. Family members.
Right. So you had all that happening for you. You have COVID yourself. I think he's okay though, but he had COVID himself.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's just been insane. Like I don't know what you do with him though, because he's such a great talent, but I feel like he would be an awesome number 2 somewhere else, like an incredible number 2. I don't know, because I mean, you're looking at the team right now. Like, he's been there for like 5 years. He's going into year 6. It was him and Wiggins. It just never matched up. Butler came there, they made the playoffs. Butler left, they went back to being garbage again. And it is what it is. And it's now like they traded for D'Angelo Russell. I love D'Angelo Russell, but I don't know if having Towns' personality, I like his game, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying him as a star player. I'm just saying I like his game. But having him and Towns there, like, I don't know if that's the answer. Like, they drafted this kid, this Anthony Edwards kid. I like his aggression, but I'm still like, like, I don't know if he's the guy yet either.
The hard part is, like, these guys come in at 18 or 19. So I've watched Wiseman, LaMelo, and Edwards. And with Edwards, I was impressed with a couple of things. He seems to be an NBA ready player, except for a couple things. Like, he turned down 2 driving lanes for step back 18 footers, like back to back. But then I watched him drill 3 threes in a 2-minute span, and just not forcing anything, just like in rhythm, in the play, bang, bang, bang. And you're going, okay, he had some drives that were impressive, and his wingspan is nuts. So you see it, like, I get why they drafted him number 1. And then Wiseman, I was blown away by him and just his overall, how fluid he is, his shooting stroke. Yeah, he's a rookie big. He's going to lose defensive assignments and stuff, but he was way more active and cerebral than I thought. And then LaMelo, you saw he had some duds to start, but his overall floor game, like rebounding, passing, some scoring, that I don't know if you've watched him play, but he's got like this 14-foot floater that he's really good at. And I'm like, what is that? And then they go in and I'm just like, is that a fluke or is that a real thing? I don't know.
It's funny because he has more, I I think his upside is a little higher than with Lonzo's. Like Alonso's young too, but I feel
Yeah.
like he's more of a scorer. So I think that's what's gonna if he like tops out on his potential, that's gonna be why. Because he has those passing skills and he has those different things. Like I think the jury's still out. His game's a little funky. That shot is funky as hell.
We're talking about Lonzo?
No, talking about LaMelo. I find
Yeah.
his shot a little funky as well. Like,
Yep.
but it's like if he pops, it's gonna be because I think he's a more aggressive scorer than Lonzo.
I listened to a lot of the like Woj and Zach Lowe and Windhorse, and they'll have Mike Schmitz on. You know who that is? He's
Yeah,
like the big draft guru, and he said the two things. He said two things about LaMelo's shooting that really stuck with me. They said one, his confidence level is way higher than Lonzo's. So he
yeah,
said from a confidence standpoint, he'll do better. And they said the other thing had to do with his mechanics were not disciplined because they didn't have to be. And what you've seen in sort of I've seen him play 3 times, and you're seeing more consistent mechanics on his shot release, and you're seeing a higher percentage of threes going in, and you're just like, I think about his touch, right? He shoots free throws well. Lonzo doesn't shoot free throws well.
yeah.
So to me, that's an indicator that your shooting is capped. You're never going to become that much of a better shooter. You'll have spots, but you won't be a shooter. Whereas LaMelo shoots free throws well, and from what I can recall, and he has that confidence and that consistency of release that's coming. Lonzo's put a lot of work into his shot. I mean, he's shooting way better, but still, there's a ceiling that LaMelo doesn't have.
So I guess the player I want to talk about to keep it local and homegrown in a sense, Pascal Siakam.
Okay, I thought you were going to say OG.
No, I'm gonna say Siakam because.
What about scarves?
What about scarves, man? I know I got a nice one. I haven't got a chance to work. We can't leave. We're under lockdown, man. So where are we going? But really and truly though, I know everybody's like somersaulting off his bandwagon right now, and I'm on the fence. Like I'm not saying I want to buy. I want to like buy more, stock in Siakam. But I don't want to sell mine either.
So you're a hold.
You know what I mean? This is a weird place. Like my fear is that like right now it looks like at the moment that he's clearly had a sip of Nick Anderson's tea from '95 and he's bedridden and he's never recovered since and he's on IVs. Like that's how I feel with him right now. But like I feel like unlike that situation where he was almost like afraid to shoot shots afterwards or especially get fouled, I feel like there's hints where like it could come out, but like the thing with him is like he's played 10 years overall of basketball.
He started at 15, which is just crazy.
Yeah, so like 10 years ago, essentially, he's played ball for like 10 years. This might be his first real hiccup in terms of having an obstacle in his way. And you can see clearly there's a residual effect from the bubble, like he hasn't recovered from it yet. But I'm on the fence to say I think he may get over it, but I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure if which side of the fence I'm going to fall on with it because I'm waiting to see okay, you should have kind of progressed from now.
So is it his free throws that you're talking about, or are you just saying he's not hitting the ceiling that you thought he would right now?
Right now, whatever happened in the bubble, I don't know what happened, but whatever happened with him in the bubble, it's like you could see he has not recovered from it. Just confidence wise, because I was saying this in my last episode where he's not even dunking anymore. Even that stuff, I'm like, yo, why? How are you not there at 6'9"? How are you not going to the basket hard and dunking on at least trying to dunk on guys and stuff?
I agree that he started the season out not very well. I would say when they were 2-8, a big reason was that he was not being aggressive. Like he wasn't running the floor aggressively. He wasn't going after rebounds aggressively. He wasn't hunting his shot aggressively. He was kind of just shooting a lot of threes and missing a lot of free throws. Right. So I got his stats up here from the last little bit, and you can definitely see he's having watched the games. He's better, but
He's
he's
getting
not
better.
your.
Yeah,
He's never going to be your number one guy,
I
right?
agree with that.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the hurdle that maybe mentally some of us have with him. He's a great role player, really good at his role. I mean, last game, I'm looking at the line here. He's got 32, a steal, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, shot 71 from the line, right? He was 11 of 20. You know,
Hmm.
he does a lot of the things when he just focuses on playing hard and getting downhill. He'll play better. His
Yeah.
3-point shooting is not very good right now. Like he's got 0 for 3, 0 for 4, or for 5 in there. But I think the Raptors are still trying to find their mojo,
Themselves.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
You got Fred, who's now he's full time, he's got the money, and I don't think that affects him, but he's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. And
Yeah.
I think OG, for me, OG is the one this year where I'm like, he's really taken that next step without doing anything different other than getting better at what he was already good at.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Pascal,
And that's the funny thing with the Raptors, right? Like it's OG's playing well this year. I know he got this extension. You know, he got the bag. That's great on him. But um, it's almost like, as you said, like Pascal is never going to be the number one guy. Like OG doesn't seem like he's ever going to be the guy, because when he first got drafted, and I'm not saying that I thought he was going to be a number one guy, but I used to watch those games when he was at Indiana, and to me he reminded me a bit of Kawhi Leonard,
Mhm.
because he had the same size, same kind of length. He doesn't have the hands, of course, but like defensively, he was like in college, he was hitting a lot of things where you're like, wow. And then offensively, you can kind of see little remnants of it. So you're like, okay, that's why I thought when Kawhi came, I was like, the guy that I thought was going to make the biggest leap would be him, because I'm like he just being around, just being around Kawhi all day, every day, for a whole season, like that's going to do wonders for his game. And instead, it was Siakam's game that took off. It wasn't his,
Yeah.
right?
I
And I
think
know
what,
there was different reasons for it and everything else, like his father died and all
yeah,
that stuff too. So that had, I think, a tremendous effect on him too.
I think you see guys become, or you realize how rare those alphas are, that it's not
Yeah.
easy, just being that little bit better than everybody else may as well be a mile, because like, what is the difference between some of these guys and LeBron James? Some of them have the same athleticism, some of them have the same body, some of them, but it's just, he's different in these little ways that are huge in the end result.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, I like OG a lot. I like that the Raptors have two really versatile forwards who can defend,
Mm-hmm.
who can make a play. The OG has definitely turned into a solid 3-point shooter.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think they're both better off when they simplify their games and just play aggressive. The minute you get them into creating and making that a big burden on them, oof, I think you're asking for more problems than you want.
Yeah, I just think like their team, like the core that they have, like I wouldn't trade Siakam, I wouldn't trade OG, I wouldn't, and you can't trade um, Van Vliet right now. But I
No.
feel like what you're talking about, the versatility and stuff, that's cool. And I feel like once they get a number one guy, it's gonna look
Yeah.
really good. You know what I mean?
Well, I
But
mean,
they
look,
just
it's
they just don't have that on the roster right now. Like I understand they tried to go for Giannis. Unfortunately, Giannis stayed, which is great. I think, which is great for him, to be honest with you. But I get it. Like I understand. I would have did it too. I would have taken that chance. But
I
it
would
is what it is.
if you could keep OG, Pascal, and Fred, I would sell everything else for Bradley Beal today,
Yeah, yeah, I would.
because he
I
would
would
fit
too.
perfect,
He
But
would.
he's
And
not coming. Like they don't have. I mean, that was another thing on my list was to talk about Bradley Beal, but yeah, teams are positioning themselves exactly. It seems the way the Raptors did with Kawhi. Get a good culture, get a good
mhm,
team, and then take a shot for the number one guy. Like look at what Brooklyn did. They were a fun little team, and now they flipped that over into KD, Kyrie, and
yeah, super team.
Hardaway. So I think that's the model that if you want to be successful, show that you're a competent organization and you can develop players, and then the bigger guys will maybe want to come. You know,
Yeah.
as opposed to always swinging for the fences for that number one guy.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think with Toronto losing Serge and losing Gasol
Marc
was
Gasol.
huge. It was huge. It was huge because my feeling was that I've always believed that Gasol was another guy as a big that you can run your offense to, and not meaning scoring, but just swinging
Yeah.
the ball, getting the offense just flowing smoothly. Like he was a guy that you could kind of depend on with that. So losing both was you knew that was gonna be, that was gonna be a setback. You know what I mean? But you're just hoping for the best that these guys will still play hard. You know what I mean? Like I thought maybe Siakam would have kind of like came out of that fog, and it's like it still looks like it's still over his head a little bit. But I know you want to get into Bradley Beal. Listen, man, I think as a basketball fan, we should be praying for our loved ones, our family members, and that Bradley Beal plays on a good team. It is what it is, man. Like I feel for him.
I do want to get into Bradley Beal, but we're running out of time, and I got one more thing I want to get to. And you and I have talked in the past about similar things.
Mm-hmm.
But is being, back in the day when I played kind of guy, is that just low key hating? Or is that like, are you biased in that the era you grew up in and playing in, is that real basketball to you? Can we never as people get out of that? Are we always thinking like,
it's a combination of both?
Can you still appreciate today? Or are you always going, oh, there's no hard fouls today? Does anybody really like hard fouls?
But you know what though, you do want more elements of some of the old school, like things move on and stuff. That's what I said. I think it's a combination of the both things. Like where the NBA is now, like you saw the other day, I think Kelly Oubre hit a three and blew a kiss to the guy, hit the three over, and they're hitting you over the technical. I'm like, okay, we can, like, I want it back where like you can have some personality.
Okay, so you want that.
Like no, but I'm saying like it's okay to like, to evolve into something a little different. But I think keeping certain elements of it is the same. The NBA is a little bit, the way they play, it's a lot freer, but it's just I find it weird in the sense where, like, for example, like a big guy, right, can get the ball, and you've seen it plenty of times where he'll catch the ball, somebody's 6'3" is guarding him, he's turning it around, and either he's kicking it out for three, or he literally doesn't know what to do, with 5 feet from the basket. And I find that's like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's kind of a disservice to your height. You know what I mean? Like just genetics alone, you should be able to benefit from the genetic overflow that you got of being 6'10".
It's insulting, you know what I mean? Your genetic analytics. Is that it? Like,
well, I'm just something like just I'm 6'10", you're 6'4". I should be able to score on you, even if I'm not a dependable, I'm not being looked at as a guy to to score 15, 20 points a game in the paint. I mean, Jesus Christ, can I turn over my shoulder and give you a hook off the glass?
I get that. Okay, I agree with that. What I will bring up is I think there's a certain degree of romanticism about like when we grew up playing, and I do not want to go back to seeing 50 or 60 post-ups a game, because the reality was there weren't many guys good at posting up. It was just that, oh, you're tall, we're going to try to get a mismatch. Like there was only a handful of guys good at posting up, and a lot of the guys, as we've gotten older, we've realized is the wing guys, the guys with the handle, with the skill and the footwork. Not a lot of big guys were good with their feet. So I think there's a romanticism that like everybody was Hakeem.
No, for sure. I agree with that. Like it's not. Yeah, do I miss the Knicks and Heat, 75 to 74, finishes? No, I don't. We can go away with that. But I feel like the game is, as much as I love basketball, I find the game is too much where it's like I feel like sometimes I am watching a 3-point contest where you're looking at games and it's like, yo, this team shot 35 times, the other team shot 30 times, and you're like I said, you're watching points. I'm not even saying post players, but you're watching points where a guy would break his man down, cross him over, go to the basket, and he's kicking it out for three, where he can just get an easy dunk. You're like, what is happening here?
Throwing that hook pass where you're like, you had a layup.
You had a layup. Like sometimes just take the layup. Let's be simple. Just score the basket. It's okay. You can still take the threes. I'm not saying you can't take the threes and you can't, work it from outside in from what it seems like. That's fine. But like it's still basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the fallout of sort of the Warriors and Rockets effect of the analytics of, shoot more threes. The only reason that the Warriors could do it is they have two of the greatest shooters in history, right?
Exactly.
Not it, and I think you're seeing the change a little bit in that, kind of back to more ball movement and player movement and guys getting downhill and less on you need to shoot a lot of threes whether you make them or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we're sort of seeing the evolution of sort of the analytics of like what is most efficient for you as a player on your roster and not what is the most efficient thing in general, because Houston did that. You shoot free throws, threes, and layups, and that's it. And that never worked because it just, you need defense, you need chemistry, you need all that. So yeah, you could maybe win more games, but it doesn't lead to championships, and not everybody can make that roster. So I think we're seeing like a regression, if that's even the right word, to basketball in a simpler form. Not everybody has to shoot threes, but you're always probably going to see more threes than 20 years ago.
No, for sure. But it's funny because you're mentioning the Rockets. The Rockets built their whole culture on, as you said, threes, dunks, and layups, no mid-range and stuff. But yet, the Raptors had Kawhi Leonard, who was a mid-range monster. Oh. And like, that's still important. Like you still, to me, I don't care where the game goes. You want to train. And I know we've had this conversation in the past. You want to train to be as effective as possible anywhere on the floor. You know what I mean? So if you're a wing player, it shouldn't just be like, okay, I'm going to train to just only shoot threes coming from high school. I got to make the corner three. I'm like, you do that. That's fine. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying as well, focus some time on those mid-range shots because that's what's available sometimes.
What happens when, how many, you see it too, right? And I'll use this example. How many times you see a guy run off the line and instead of getting into that in between, whether it's a floater, whether it's a pull-up jumper, whatever, they just keep dribbling through, right? And then it's kick out to kick out, and the scramble lasts 10 seconds, and then it gets to the end of the clock, and some guy's putting up a bad shot.
To take a shot.
And I'm like, hey, how about like you just pump fake, step in, and take a 15-footer, even though the analytics say, and what are teams doing? Teams are trying to take away layups and they're trying to take away threes. And then the next
what's
point,
available.
Right. Yeah. And the next point I'll make is, and we sound like old guys as we say this, but the next point I'll make is the greatest scorers of our generation are, and I might miss one or two, but we're going to talk about Kobe. We're going to talk about Dirk. We're going to talk about Paul Pierce, Jordan, McGrady. Where did they kill guys? Was at that elbow extended, right? And the nail, because the simple reality is when your best player gets it 15 feet from the hoop, if you help, you're toast. If you don't, and he's only one step from the rim. So your defense is compromised once he gets that position. If he starts at 24 feet from the hoop, there's only 4 or 5 players in the league where I'm like, you could really hurt me and impact winning from 25 feet away. LeBron's best years, right? Were Miami, where what did he do? He operated at the elbow. And if you watch all the tape, he just crushed, right? So, but not everybody has a Kawhi and, all those guys. So you do the best with what you got, I guess.
No, but that's the thing. It's the NBA. And I mean, I think most sports is like this. It's a copycat league. Whatever's successful, the Warriors went on this reign of being successful. And it was such a unique situation that everybody feels like, okay, I may not be able to dunk like LeBron or do these super athletic things. I'm not Greek freak, but we can train our guys to shoot threes, and that's fine. But again, you can't shoot threes like Clay and Steph. Like that's and then when they had Durant there for like the 3 years, or Durant, like those are super unique situations.
Even Draymond 1 year shot like 40% from three.
Right.
Which, I mean, I guess shooting's contagious. Because he hasn't done it since.
Right, exactly. So that's the whole thing. It's like you can't replicate that, and I think that's the part of the copycat league and era that we're in, where it's like now everybody feels like, you sometimes you watch even pick up basketball and a guy that can't play that well is shooting a 25-foot three, and it's like dude, like first you shouldn't be playing. But
I do that now just because I'm old. I can't get any closer.
Well, exactly. You're just setting it up for the jumper.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of jab step, and then I chuck it up from my chest. That's what it is.
But that's what it is. But don't get me wrong. Like I said, I still love the NBA. Obviously, I do. But it's just that's the one part where you're just like, okay, let's bring some elements of basketball back in a sense too. I'm not saying, like I said, you want like, we want to go back to the days where like the Lambeers and the Oakleys are giving forearms through your throats. I'm not saying that, but like there should be some elements where it's like, okay, let's get back to actual basketball. If I drive by my man and the layup's open and you're open for the three, sometimes let me just get the dunk. It's okay. Or let me just get the layup. Or if you're open for the 15-footer, take it.
I think this is the evolution of the push shot and the floater, right? That Tony Parker was so great at, and that they're teaching all these kids now. I forget who was I watching the other night? Young guy got in the lane. It was the kid Tyrese Halliburton for Sacramento. 3 times got in the lane. He's about 8 or 9 feet away. Paint's clogged. Little push shot. Bang. Done. Look at Jokic. Jokic is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 players in the league, but I should probably make a list of that just to prove it. But he just gets in the lane, puts it up 8 feet, right? So we're seeing that evolution. I think us as old guys, we're so used to like the square up 2-foot jump shot. Whereas now they're teaching these kids totally different, which is amazing.
Yeah. Which is funny you say that, because one of like, when I was younger, in my day, one of my favorite players I used to love watching because he had a floater was Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
Like the reason why, even for myself, like, in my little small thing of playing basketball or whatever career, whatever you want to say, like shooting floaters was like a thing for me because I used to love watching Mark Jackson do it because he wasn't fast. He had a good sized body. He wasn't fast, but like sometimes to get a proper shot off, he would, especially if he was in the post, he'd bang, turn around, floater, bang, turn around, floater. Like he was doing that over 7-footers, no problem. I don't think Rod Strickland a little bit too, but I know Mark Jackson was huge with that.
Rod Strickland's finishing package is bananas.
Oh, it was bananas. It was bananas. But Mark Jackson was a guy that I remember like that would come in the lane and just give you that little floater, and that to me was like, I always thought that was a great shot to take. I mean,
it's funny that sort of those old man at the Y skills that we, I guess now that's us. Now they're a thing.
Yeah.
Right? The floater, the push shot, the hips, all these things, you're just like, oh, this is what the old guys used to do. We used to play like in Montreal. These Europeans had come, moved to Canada and play in our leagues, and they're doing these shots that you never saw. 1-foot floater, spin, back step, and you're like, what are these guys doing? And then you look at the sheet and the guy's got 40. You're like, what the hell just happened? That guy just had cigarettes at halftime.
Yep. Go high off the glass. And honestly,
bank shots, you're like, what the hell?
And you know what too? Because if you can master shots like that, early in your career, it saves on your energy too, because not every time you have to go and, crash between 2 guys and get a basket. You know what I mean? You got to get the foul. Sometimes, it takes for you just to, you get 1 foot in the key. My philosophy was always like, if you have a foot in the key, you should be, if you're a good wing or a good somebody that likes to dive and cut and stuff, you should be unstoppable in the paint. It doesn't have to be, I don't mean as a big man. I mean, just like as long as you get 1 foot in the paint, you should be able to get a floater off at the very least. You know what I mean? So like if you can master that, it conserves energy too.
Yeah. On that note, Calvin, this has been amazing.
Can I say something before you click?
Sure.
Listen, like, thank you for having me on. It was, this was definitely fun. Am I allowed to plug my stuff really quick?
I'm going to plug your stuff before. You can plug whatever you want.
Okay, that's fine. No, just just wherever you listen to podcasts, check out South Shore Ave. I have my Ave podcast, which is like the consistent one I do the most. I just recently set up a Style Sharab YouTube channel, like just very recently. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline for 2021. But yeah, but definitely, when you get a chance, once you finish listening to Bill's podcast, of course, um, come over to mine, once you get a chance. But but wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever you go, just click on Sal Sharab, you'll find all my stuff there. But
Awesome.
like, I'm very gracious and very humbled that you chose me to be I think your first guest.
Oh
So
yeah,
if
100%.
oh man, I'm now I'm more than honored. Shit, I'm freaking
I've had
happy now.
I've had
Good
other I've
God.
had other people ask, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, because I mean, you
Oh
and I
man.
know a lot of the same people, and I'm just like, it's a little bit different, and I don't want to do my first interview with somebody who I might end up with dead air with, or like doesn't really get the concept of what we're doing,
Mhm.
or is just going to go totally off the reservation. And you're like, hey, like we need to have some type of format to this. You can't just go on some tangent. So,
No, for sure. I'm like Tiger Woods fist pump, man. I'm
yeah,
like, I feel great right now.
yeah, let's
But
hope
no,
we'll
but
have
we'll definitely have you on mine. We'll definitely
cool.
work that out in the next couple of months or so. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Like when we do that, that'll be just as fun as well. Talking hoops is
it's easy.
it's what you love to do when you're a former old
Yeah.
decrepit baller. It's all you have to do. You only have your voice left, and knees is gone.
Well,
You
and
only
then
have your voice.
you realize like, yeah, I'm much better at talking about basketball than I am playing it now. So, and then you realize like all your friends, I'm literally doing this for myself, and because of friends like you, like this is a chance to talk basketball. And so some of my friends, I literally text the episode to them. Like I will
Yeah.
share the clip via text. So it's like I get comments, but it's like they're texting me back. They're not putting it on the YouTube channel or any of that. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is what it's for. Now that that's over and done with, I want to say another big thank you to Calvin for coming on and doing that with me. That was lots of fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want me to do more, feel free to leave it in the comments or text me or send up smoke signals, whatever way you want to do it. As usual, I'm going to say like if you like, comment if you have something to say, and subscribe at your own risk.